And we are live and on the air. This is the TWIS Minion Science Island Hangout. Tonight we have a theme: space. Minions in space. That's our theme. Is there other intelligent life on some distant planet? Is there other Earth-like life on a moon or planet in our solar system? These are important questions we will attempt to answer tonight. And helping me answer that question, we have Dale, my Canadian friend Dale.
Howdy.
Howdy. And his drinking buddy, Justin Jackson. At some point, come on, Dale, you've only had a couple of sips. Jeez. You're a Canadian, come on.
Yeah, no, I was just, it's all good. It's all good. I'm just, I'm giddy because I haven't eaten that much tonight yet.
Oh, yeah. You've been out on search and rescue training?
Yeah, they had kind of an opening night they have every year that I went to and got to listen to a 2-hour lecture.
Wait, you do, aside from climbing towers and lightning-riddled frozen temperatures, you also engage in some sort of rescue operations?
Well, for industrial rescue, yeah, if someone's hanging there, I guess you got to help them. Or not. It depends on the relationship.
I'll see you after the thaw. I'll send up a basket. Yeah. Yeah, I guess you can't just leave somebody there. Become unsightly after a while.
I'm sorry, I don't do rescues.
You'll have to find another way down.
Yeah, that's all good.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that'd be terrifying.
And also joining us at some point, possibly, Pam Taylor. She's attempting to put cranky Chelsea to bed. Don't know. She'll probably pop in at some time. And Dale, man, you got to put some food in your stomach. I don't want to see Dale going into some kind of diabetic type shock or something because he's out of food, or we're going to have to watch you carefully tonight. I don't know.
I hate this Google Hangout thing because you can see yourself, and I just look horrible. I'm having a bad hair day here. Like, it's terrible.
You got hair, Dale. Come on.
Good one, Ed.
Oh, boy.
Ed Dyer, king of the silver lining.
Yes. All right. I can see we're gonna have too much fun here. I can definitely see that. You never have too much fun. I'm gonna just plow ahead. And the first thing we're going to be talking about is what is the possibility of Earth-like life, either in our solar system or somewhere out in the universe. And I'm going to start out with a couple of paragraphs from Wiki. And it's got a name. It's called abiogenesis. Abiogenesis. It's the natural process. It's not the unnatural process. Not Dr. Frankenstein and his lightning and monster. This is the natural process of life arising from non-living matter. That is a simple organic compounds. It is thought to have occurred between 3.8 and 4 billion years ago on Earth, and is studied through a combination of laboratory experiments and extrapolations from genetic information of modern organisms in order to make reasonable, they say, conjectures about what pre-life chemical reactions may have given rise to in a living system. And I can say right now, nobody's got a clue. Nobody has successfully in a lab or created a computer model where they've created the primordial suit that we might have had and then created a protocell, a living thing. Hasn't happened yet. the smartest person in the planet who has been studying this is making the same kind of guesses we are. And going on. Many approaches investigate how self-replicating molecules or their components came into existence. It is generally accepted that current life on Earth descended from the RNA world, although RNA-based life may not have been the first life to have existed. The Miller-Urey experiment and similar experiments demonstrated that most amino acids, basic chemicals of life, can be synthesized from inorganic compounds in conditions intended to be similar to early Earth. Several mechanisms have been investigated, including lightning. There you go, lightning, Mr. Dr. Frankenstein, and radiation. Other approaches focus on understanding how catalysts in chemical systems in early Earth might have provided the precursors, you know what I mean, molecules necessary for self-replication. Complex organic molecules have been found in the solar system and in interstellar space. These molecules may have provided the starting material for the development of life on Earth. And then we have, according to the panspermia hypothesis, microscopic life distributed by meteorites, asteroids, and other small solar system bodies may exist throughout the universe, and speculated that biochemistry of life may have begun shortly after the Big Bang 13.8 billion years ago during a possible habitable epoch when the age of the universe was only 10 to 17 million years ago. And I'm going to stop there. And
10 to 17 million years old.
Billion years ago, excuse me.
Or billion years ago. Okay.
Just a little bit more. And the first thing I'll say is that, just as Dale had mentioned many times, extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof, and we are completely short of having any kind of proof that life exists, Earth-like life exists, anywhere other than on Earth. However, to me, I look at two things. I look at the probability of Earth-like life existing somewhere else in the universe. Now, there are bazillions of planetary bodies out in the universe. Bazillions of them. I don't know how many. It defies logic to me that there's got to be many examples. I would guess millions of Earth-like planets in that habitable zone around their star. So it just defies logic to me that we can be the only planet with Earth-like life. The second thing is creating life's a formula. It's an algorithm. It's a formula. You get the right chemicals, you get the right chemical interactions, you got life, period. There is a formula. And so that formula must also exist. The right elements in that formula must exist. Therefore, there must be life somewhere out in our universe. In our solar system, different story. My personal feeling is it's less than a 50% chance of having life within our own solar system. And I've got a couple of more articles from Wiki about the three most likely candidates, Mars, Titan, and Europa, and we'll talk about them next. But let's just start off with, what do you think the probability, likelihood is of life, Earth-like life existing in the universe and Earth-like life in our solar system? What do you think, Dale?
Well, I'm going to tell you what turns my crank.
Uh-oh.
What turns my crank, and I'm not sure which planet this is. Everybody's wondering where I'm going to go with this. I can't remember which planet, but the one that has the ice surface where they think there's like an ocean underneath. Which one is that?
Europa.
Europa. Oh, to send a submarine and find sea creatures underneath the ice, that turns my crank. To have this one-eyed earthworm-looking thing that's 75 feet long or something really interesting, that would just that would change the way humanity looks at other planets. I think that would be awesome. Crank would be fully turned.
I too would have a turned crank if something like that occurred. So the number of Earth-like planets in the universe, they estimate somewhere between 100 to 200 billion. So then your whole probability thing is lots of opportunities to have maybe something similar happen to whatever happened here on Earth. But then there's, you know, the just having Earth-like planets, of course, isn't enough. It has to have the right early stage formation of these planets, which indicates that those precursors could be existing on a lot of planets that don't have life, that didn't sustain life. The trick of the Earth-like planet might just be that the planet developed into a planet that could sustain life beyond that sort of biogenesis event. So that increases the odds, right? Then any planet perhaps has the ability at some point to form the chemistry that can create life and have life born of it. But it's that whether or not it turns into a life-sustaining planet after the fact that would be the key. On the other hand, as far as we can tell, we're related to all life on this planet. And that it all sort of dates back to the same something. And if there was different forms, completely different, or if we could identify some completely different form of life on this planet, then I think it really increases the odds of there being life on other planets. The fact that we seem to believe at this point that life has only arisen once on this planet is troubling, because if it's only arisen one time to one sort of freak event, that makes it much less a general chemistry of a planet, along with the sustainability of that planet to sustain what we call life in habitable zones. That becomes sort of less important because it only seems that biogenesis only seems to have occurred once on a planet that we all agree can sustain life. The panspermia thing is interesting, but it also, I think, greatly reduces the chance of life in the universe. In a sense, as things spread out and got further apart, there isn't inter-solar system material anywhere anymore. So if you didn't get the panspermia comet cruising by the habitable planet at the right time, you're never going to see it now. So that one, I think, drastically reduces the chances of there being life everywhere in the world. I think it would be really fascinating to find not necessarily life. I mean, Mars, if we found dead life, if we found signs of dead microbes, that microbes had existed there at some point, that would be enough to say, wow, okay, this can be anywhere. This can be everywhere. And I think it'd be also interesting if it is similar to ours, because then what does that say? Does that say this again is that one unique event that sprung up in our solar system? Or does it say that this is going to be the sort of normal way that it springs up everywhere throughout the universe? If it springs up differently somewhere in our solar system, perhaps, you know, not carbon-based or something, I don't know. But then that creates a multitude of possibilities for a multitude of planets, and we can get rid of just the Goldilocks zone, just the Earth-like planets. We can say life finds a way throughout the universe, possibly. But again, my doubt is always raised by the fact that, as far as we can tell, even with what we all will agree were perfect conditions to start life as we know it, it's the only life on this planet. Even though we have all these diverse species and diversity of life here, it all has this sort of same origin in some kind of red-green algae under the sea or whatever our precursor, oldest four parents were. Most of us are related to fish. And so I'd like to, I don't think the Earth-like planet as it sits today is that generator of life creation. Otherwise, we might be, instead of just finding new species, they discovered the new species of plant via Facebook. Great. What about the new form of life that has emerged on Earth in some remote area where we had never explored before? Some unique biogenesis here on Earth, separate from our own. That would convince me much more strongly of the presence of life throughout the universe than just that there's other planets that are similar to ours.
Okay, so depending on how you define what life is, and you have to come up with a suitable definition that pleases you. Craig Venter has gone out into the oceans and found all this different bacteria and species that millions and millions, they stopped counting. There's so many, there's trillions with all these samples. And they did an interesting thing. They did a really interesting thing. They went, I don't know, it was like 1,000 meters under the ground or some ridiculous level way under the ground. And they thought they wouldn't find the diversity of bacteria that would match the ocean, but it went the other way. At those deepest levels of the Earth, it's teeming with unique, distinct bacteria that actually are different than what they're seeing in the ocean. So we're finding life forms all the time, if you want to define it as a form of bacteria.
Right. And actually what's interesting about that, too, is because they are going down 1,000 meters, compare that to the rest of life, which all sort of lives on the top millimeter, if you will, of the Earth. So that when you sort of take in that collective of everywhere on the planet, as much as 1,000 meters down, there's life teeming, it actually makes up something like 10% of life on this planet. Pretty incredible, you know, that so much of the life on Earth is out of sight, completely out of sight. Even if you're a fish, a bottom-feeding fish, you don't get to see this life. So yeah, they're like, yeah, bring on another meteorite. What do we care? we'll survive. We always have.
Pamela, are you ready to give us your thoughts? Or? Okay.
I was trying to unmute. Yeah, I think life is everywhere, and I think we don't even have the technology to recognize it half the time. So, yeah. I think it's throughout. I don't know about too much in the solar system. Mars, maybe, we'll find evidence of previous life. I don't really think anywhere else at this stage. Or at least we don't have the ability to recognize it if we do come across it at this point. But throughout the universe, for sure. I can't believe that we were the only bacteria on the only asteroid that happened to pass by, the only planet with the right conditions. That's very unlikely. And I don't think it's all going to be, it can't all be carbon-based. That wouldn't make sense. So I think there's way more out there than we can even imagine. You know what I was just thinking when you were talking about that? Did anyone used to watch the TV show Sliders?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. So, no, Justin? Okay, so it's about multi-dimensional travel. They go to, hundreds of different Earths, all the same timeline and everything, but it's all Earth, right? So, and it was really good. They showed different ways that life has evolved. It's not all human. Different events in history happened and just gave a lot of different scenarios. So there's people.
This time Churchill is giving the big speech. We shall not let the squid people put us into the darkness of fear.
Well, yeah, but there's some in one of like there's the Cro-Mags, which are more ape than humanoid because they won at, when we were all competing. There's people with wings, they can fly, and that's completely normal. Yeah. I just thought they looked at a lot of different possible evolutionary paths, and they explained it, oh, well, if this hadn't happened, then that could have happened, and yeah, so I think it would be arrogant to think that this is the only place there's life.
Well, like I say, extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof, and we got nothing at this point. However, we got odds. And I think one of the things I agree with Justin on is the default, since we're science-minded people, the default should be it's not true. The default should be no. And what I think is, from everything I read, the default for most people, including a lot of scientists, they want to believe. They want to say yes. And so the default, they're trying to prove that there's life, and really the default should be no, there isn't.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that is the default. I don't know that anybody will assert that they know anything of this life that they claim is out there. Oh, it's this, it's that. They read backwards and upside down. Nobody's quite making any claims based on that. But I think in a way you sort of have to at least allow your imagination to lead you to go and drill into the ice on Mars and have a probe on board that is looking for microbes. So you need people who do sort of believe. I mean, it would be really odd to me. I'd be the lone person saying there's life out there, people. We got to go look for it. If nobody else believed, if nobody else thought that was even worth looking into, then I think I would be pushing harder in that direction. When I'm trying to envision probabilities or chances, it doesn't look too good. It doesn't. I don't feel it. I mean, there's a lot of probability. 100 to 200 billion Earth-like planets. That's a great start. But we need it needs, I guess, to be proven that we can create life in a different way. And there is a panspermia idea that maybe has some credit to it, which is if those founding molecules that were required didn't start on this planet but started on another planet or even on a comet itself, and that's how this thing gets started within a solar system, then maybe that's the part of the puzzle we're missing. Maybe we've been too Earth-centric in looking for the foundry out of which life started.
Let's start. The three candidates everyone I read about: Mars, Titan, and Europa. So let's take a look at Mars. And I'm going to read a couple paragraphs from our friend Wiki. Although Mars has no evidence of current structured global magnetic field, observations show that parts of the planet's crust have been magnetized and that alternating plurality reversals of its dipole field have occurred in the past. And everywhere I'm saying there's got to be a dynamic environment. This paleomagnetism of magnetically susceptible materials has properties that are similar to the alternating bands found on the ocean floor of Earth. One theory, published in 1999 and re-examined in 2005, is that these bands demonstrate plate tectonic on Mars 4 billion years ago, before the planetary dynamo ceased to function and the planet's magnetic field faded away. Mars lost its magnetosphere 4 billion years ago, possibly because of numerous asteroid strikes. So the solar wind interacts directly with the Martian ionosphere, lowering the atmospheric density by stripping away atoms from the outer layer. The highest atmospheric density on Mars is equal to that found 35 kilometers or 22 miles above Earth's surface. The resulting mean surface pressure is only 0.06% of that of Earth. The surface gravity is about 38% of Earth. Skipping ahead, the current understanding of planetary habitability, not much of an understanding as far as I'm concerned, the ability of a world to develop and sustain life, favors planets that have liquid water on their surface. This most often requires the orbit of a planet lie within the habitable zone, which for the Sun extends just beyond Venus to the semi-major axis of Mars. Mars dips inside this region, but the planet's thin, low-pressure atmosphere prevents liquid water from existing over large regions for extended periods. The past flow of liquid water demonstrates the planet's potential for habitability. Some recent evidence has suggested that eddy water on the Martian surface may have been too salty and acidic to support regular terrestrial life. The lack of a magnetosphere and extremely thin atmosphere of Mars are a challenge. The planet has little heat transfer across its surface, poor insulation against bombardment of the solar wind, and insufficient atmospheric pressure to retain water in a liquid form. Liquid instead changes to a gaseous state. Mars is also nearly and perhaps totally geologically dead, and the end of volcanic activity has apparently stopped the recycling of chemicals and minerals between the surface and the interior of the planet. So there might be some possibility that early, 4 billion years ago, when Mars may have been more Earth-like, you might have had the conditions to kickstart some form of life, but it really looks like, I don't know how that life could be sustainable, since you don't have that recycling of compounds and materials. If it exists, it's got to exist deep underground. Maybe some future Mars exploration, digging in, a mile underground or something, maybe find something. What do you think, guys? Looking better or not looking so good for Mars?
Looking kind of terrible.
Dale, can't hear you speaking.
Mars isn't a big. They're gonna, if they drill way underground or something like that, they may, something by something creating some heat under there or something. There's probably microbes, but the life that we want to find really is something that moves and has some intelligence and is like life as we know it. That's the cool stuff.
And tastes like chicken.
Yeah, can you imagine?
Yeah.
I wonder what, that large single-eyed earthworm that's underneath the ocean of Europa.
So that's like
Meat is meat.
So, yeah, I think microbes I think would be fine. Just it would prove to enough people that there is the possibility is very real, that we can find these things, that they exist out there, and that we can start to look beyond our own solar system. And I would expect that it would have to be its own biogenesis going on there, right? Wouldn't have to be, I guess, but this is the other theories, right? But if it was, then that opens up, okay, there's a type of life that can form on a Mars-like planet. And so then you would really have, like, okay, there's a Martian-type life, there's an Earth-type life, and then that opens up what's considered a habitable zone. Now Mars-like planets get to be included in the search. So I think there's a lot of great implications if we find anything that looks like it might have one point procreated itself.
Yes, exactly. If we found evidence of anything lifelike, a fossil, anything, that would be fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, what? Michael Jobin in the chat area also is giving us a thumbs down. So, in this group, it's not looking so good, certainly for life on Mars. And the wind. I mean, if we're talking Earth-like, Mars had an Earth-like atmosphere for such a relatively short period of time.
Long enough, though. Long enough. Like Earth life started almost immediately after its formation. I mean, this is a 4 billion year old planet. We've got life, forms of life that are over 3 billion years old, or the origins of life is over 3 billion years old. So there's a sort of an interesting question there, because it really, if life did completely evolve solely on this planet by itself without panspermia's involvement, didn't take that long, really. It sort of happened quickly, if you think about the age of the universe and everything. We got it done in a few billion years, or maybe even under a billion years.
Under a billion years, actually. You're right.
And then what was that first billion years like? That first billion years might have been pretty darned inhospitable to even that early formation, but might be why that formation took place. It's hard to tell, because we don't know. We still don't know. This is the thing. We haven't back engineered it yet, and I'm actually surprised that we haven't done a better job back engineering it at this point.
Yes. That's the thing. Nobody here has been able to even recreate a protocell. Lots of people working on it, and we haven't even been able to create a protocell. So we really don't have that. We don't know what conditions were necessary. And you're also right. That could have been like maybe a million years, couple of million years, with that little window of opportunity.
Mm-hmm. And we don't know what I think part of the problem is we don't have any evidence for what the precursors to even the cellular life were. We know what goes into it, but we don't know what those structures were that preceded it precisely. And they may be something that we don't have an example of on the planet now. And of course you would think forensically their fingerprint should be all over life, and of course it is. We just don't know. We just don't have their finger to compare it to, so we don't know what in the basis of life is a fingerprint of this archetype or that archetype that preceded life is in the most rudimentary form that we can describe it. We don't know what those predecessors were, and if we had them, and maybe that's what you find on a Mars. Maybe that's what you could discover on a Europa, is some sort of structure or chemical soup molecules that we didn't even imagine were the precursors. But once discovered, we might go, oh, now I see how these parts of the puzzle could fit together, unfold, or fold together down a chain of events to form life.
Yeah, I could almost see that transpermia between Mars and Earth during the period when both planets had volcanic activity. Mm-hmm. At least, there's a shot at it.
Well, there's Martian rocks that get found on Earth from time to time. And unless some sort of Martian geologist recently left them on the plain of Arizona while searching for Earth rocks and had to empty his pouch out to have more room, right? It tells you that big stuff happens in this neck of the woods that can send debris, Martian detritus, if you will. The other thing, well, if there's Martian debris on Earth, well, we had a 65 million years ago, a 6-mile wide meteorite strike the Earth with such force to wipe out all the dinosaurs. Maybe that sent a good deal of Earth detritus into space, and maybe some of that landed on Mars, and maybe somewhere on Mars there's a dinosaur fossil from a dinosaur that was a little too close to the epicenter of the ground zero of this catastrophic event, right? I mean, who knows how much material was put out into space? How much of that drifted over to Mars? Wouldn't it all be surprised for there to be a Triceratops skull kicking it somewhere on the underground Mars? Yeah.
Yeah, Mars seems so geologically dead. You know, magnetically, no magnetic interactions happening. That really doesn't look like a very good candidate.
I think if we find any life on Mars, my prediction would be that it's Earth life that spread there. If a rock from Mars can land on Earth, a microbe from Earth could end up on Mars, and if there's enough of them, then they can. If they're enough of an extremophile. Which, look, you know, when the K2 event took place, the 6-mile wide meteorite hitting the Gulf of Mexico, it kicked up, it hit the ocean, basically, I guess, or formed that Gulf, but I think it hit some water there. Those organisms deep within the soil we talk about are pretty extremophile. You know, that's extreme life. If it could survive at the bottom of the ocean, and if it could make it through space, maybe depositing itself in the ice of Mars, survives there. We know that frozen microbes still have DNA regeneration going on. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years. Doesn't really seem to matter to them. As long as they're repairing their DNA, they can overcome cosmic rays and the rest of the deterioration that normally happens. Maybe they come out into a swampy underground of Mars that's not so different from where their journey started.
All right. Move on to what I would consider to be a more likely candidate, but I don't know if it's actually a likely candidate. And that's our friend Titan, the largest moon of Saturn. And it says it is the only natural satellite. What's that? A natural satellite known to have a dense atmosphere. Is there an unnatural satellite that has a dense atmosphere? Can we say, I don't know. There's that word. I get hung up on that word natural all the time. Mm-hmm. The only object other than Earth with clear evidence of a stable bodies of surface water has been found. Titan is likely differentiated into several layers with 3,400 kilometer, 2,000 mile rocky center surrounded by several layers composed of different crystal forms of ice. Its interior may still be hot, and there may be liquid layer consisting of a magma composed of water and ammonia between the ice crust and deeper ice layers made of high-pressure forms of ice. The presence of ammonia allows water to remain liquid at a temperature as low as 176 degrees Kelvin, 97 degrees Celsius, for eutecratic mixture of water. Evidence of such an ocean was uncovered by a Cassini probe in the form of natural, extremely low-frequency radio waves in Titan's atmosphere. Titan's surface is thought to be a poor reflector of extremely low-frequency radio waves, so they may instead be reflecting off the liquid ice boundary of a subsurface ocean. Further supporting evidence for a liquid layer and decoupled ice shelf comes from the way the gravity field varies as Titan orbits Saturn. Laboratory simulations have led to the suggestion that enough organic material exists on Titan to start a chemical evolution, and leads us to what is thought to have started life on Earth, which of course we don't know. Although the analogy assumes the presence of liquid water for longer periods than is currently observable. Several theories suggest that liquid water from an impact could be preserved under a frozen isolation layer. It has also been theorized that liquid ammonia oceans could exist deep below the surface. Another model suggests an ammonia water solution as much as 200 kilometers to 120 meters deep, 120 miles deep beneath a water ice crust with conditions that although extreme by terrestrial standards, are such that life could indeed survive. Heat transfers between the interior and upper layers would be critical in sustaining any subsurface oceanic life. Detection of microbial life on Titan would depend on its biogenic effects, that the atmospheric methane and nitrogen might be of biological origin is being examined. It has been suggested that life could exist in lakes of liquid methane on Titan, just as organisms on life live on water. Such organisms would inhale H2 in place of O2, metabolize it with acetylene instead of glycose. I'm going to skip ahead a bit. Despite these biological possibilities, there are formidable obstacles to life on Titan, and any analogy to Earth is inexact. At the vast distance from the Sun, Titan is frigid, and its atmosphere lacks C2O. At Titan's surface, water exists only in solid form. Because of these difficulties, scientists such as Jonathan Lunin have viewed Titan less as a likely habitat for life than as experiment for examining theories on conditions that prevailed prior to the appearance of life on Earth. Although life itself may not exist, the prebiotic conditions on Titan and the associated organic chemistry remain of great interest in understanding the early history of terrestrial biosphere.
My sense is there's so much data missing that we don't know until we go there. Until you start to have some sort of semi-intelligent probe that can move around the environment freely, and even then. But yeah, there's so much missing data. You know what it's like when there's missing data, we get surprised. It's like, wow, we never expected that. Kind of like the flyby with Pluto. There was a lot of surprised people with the geological features, and it wasn't what they thought it would be. And I think that's what we're going to find with these, as we get more effective in sending probes to these planets that we can do it cheap enough to do the science. We're going to find out there's a lot of surprises, but it's fun to try to use with the limited data. It's fun to try to, presuppose what could be there, just based on our skinny knowledge.
That, and we don't have many choices. We're kind of stuck in this one solar system. If we had access to multiple solar systems, there would be better planets to sort of be speculating about. But we've only got this, so now we're down to moons. We're going to go through moons and say, okay, maybe the moon. The planet's no good. Okay, how about the moon? This moon's got a shot. It's got water. That's what you said. You said you need a planet with water. Oh, but it's frozen in methane water. Okay, so that's maybe not as good as we hope. Yeah. Again, our solar system looks pretty darn bleak.
You know what? That's really depressing. Like, we got this one solar system. Like, that's it. It takes all the air out of the balloon. My balloon was floating high for a little while, but you just sort of let the air out. We're stuck. The You know what? That should be your tagline on the bottom is we're stuck in this solar system.
We're stuck in the solar system.
That's
Yeah,
a good
you
one.
know, it's tough though. I mean, if we wouldn't even be talking about Mars if we could get the planet Zorga. Right? Planet Zorga it's already, we can tell there's something going on. It's got an atmosphere like Earth. There's green house gases and stuff going on. It's got the right gravity. That's where you go look for it, baby. Planet Zorga. Right? But no, we got like, well, we're going to look at, there's a dead rock that's too hot, and there's one that's too cold. All right, how would a moon around something that's big enough to create heat by itself and pretend that's a small version of a sun and a small planet? What would that be? What would that be like?
I miss those innocent days of the 1950s and 1960s of what the essence of what we thought would all, on these other planets, what was the planet with all the women on it? There was that one planet. I can't remember the name of these movies, but yeah, and Zorga or whatever you said. That
I think it was Mars is for women. Venus is for Mars is for.
Men are from Mars, women are from Venus.
No, it's not the book. There was a there was a 50 sci-fi.
Also, women are from Mars
Like the
and men
Women of Venus or something. It was like all Amazonian.
It was a 1950s movie, and strangely enough, it was solely inhabited by women with large breasts and who wore very little clothing.
So the buzzkills on actual space have been coming steadily throughout the decades that have passed.
science has ruined the 1950s fantasy. It's not served us very well, because there's all sorts of wonderful creatures we were supposed to find, and the Martians, of course, and everything else. And it's too bad we lost our innocence, and now we're having to go back to what was the essence of what you said again? We're stuck in the solar system, and it's kind of boring.
You just love the solar system you're with, and that's what we're forced to do.
You can't be with the solar system you want.
Love the one you're with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing. That's why we're trying to find ways to, like, okay, I know she puts out a lot of methane, but there's a chance if I left the window open and breathed hydrogen through a mask, there could be a way to live with her, right? Like, I could make this work somehow, some way. But no, I mean, we have a miserable selection. There's solar systems that have multiple planets in the Earth-like habitable zone. That's where you want to be. That's where you want to be. You want to be in one of those solar systems. Pardon the solar system I'm with, no disrespect, but that's the solar system you want when there's another planet, likely the one closest to you, right? Of course, it'd have to be.
So you're not into monogamous solar systems, you're into an orgy of solar systems.
No. It's one solar system. One solar system.
You know what I mean.
That has two planets that are strikingly in the habitable zone.
A polygamy system.
One solar system to rule them all.
One a little bit hotter than the other. One a little cool. Right? But it would be like, okay, there actually is another Earth-like planet in our solar system that we could get to. Wow. And we would have gone there already. Of course, we had this, we've technologically gotten there. And what would we find? Well, what if we didn't find Earth? I mean, what if we didn't find life? Doesn't matter. Guess what? Habitable. Let's move in. Now we have two planets.
Yeah, perfect.
That's kind of nice that there wasn't anybody here to move out. Come to think of it, it's more convenient this way.
Yeah. Because, I actually get people who don't have children or can't have children say horrible things to me, like how I'm ruining the planet by having a kid because I'm increasing the carbon footprint. They're just jealous, but I'm just saying. So if we had another planet to move to, they couldn't say horrible things like that to me. But I was going to say...
Also, you can always suggest to them, you probably wouldn't, but my response would be, well, there's something you could do to lessen the number of people on the planet.
I wouldn't suggest suicide to anyone.
I'm just saying, if that's your chief concern,
if they're really concerned, they could. Absolutely. I might say that next time. But Dale, you were saying before about, you want to find intelligent life, that's where it's interesting. Well, I used to feel like that, but yeah, and if we found them a little bit more intelligent than us, right, well, then they're intelligent enough to stay the hell away from us, right? And if they're a little bit less intelligent than the human race, I don't want to meet them. I've got enough of those people around, So what's the likelihood of finding someone, a race, a species exactly the same?
What about dinosaurs? What if we find dinosaurs on another planet, like something that resembles? It's not human.
I can't have a coffee with them or anything.
Well, you could, but
No, I think they might eat me.
Wait, Dale, do you listen to Blair's Animal Corner? There's some pretty terrifying stuff going on here on Earth. I don't know.
So in order to get to these planets, another depressing fundamental of physics is beaming the Star Trek technology. That'd be the only way to get us there. You got to beam it out in light. It's so far away, and as data, and then you're recreated. Are you going to volunteer to get disintegrated on one side and take the chance that you're actually going to be recreated? Right? Are you going to volunteer and step up?
So, my question. So I get this.
I would have before becoming a parent. Now, no.
So, but here's my question. I understand that you're sending a bunch of atoms over there, and they're reconstituting as me. Let's say we forget the whole destroying this copy portion of it. It's not like that means coming back anytime soon. It's not like we're gonna be competing for we're gonna both show up to my job and be like, oh, is it your day? I keep forgetting. Which one am I again? Am I you or you me? Because this is really so confusing. By the way, what did you eat last night? And could you wash the toothbrush out a little bit better? Because I feel like you leave more on it than I do. I feel like you're leaving your stink to it. I don't understand why this copy has to get destroyed to send the other copy halfway across the galaxy or universe.
I was hoping we would have this sort of recollection and this conversation after we disintegrated you. Now, wait a minute. Maybe let's think about this. Maybe we didn't need to do that.
You mean you didn't have to destroy the other copy, but you did it anyway? But I didn't really think this through. But yeah, there's no reason for that. This one wasn't coming back.
The pleasure of disintegration. I'd be the disintegration master. That'd be the new job of the future, where your entire job is to, okay, yeah, he made it to the other side. Disintegrate this one. Yeah,
because that's the thing. It actually wouldn't make much sense. It wouldn't actually be that efficient to disintegrate all the. Why does it matter if it's these atoms? I'm only using these atoms for a certain period of time anyway. Right? It's actually sending them energy, turning them to pure energy and sending them somewhere and reconstituting those same atoms. Why bother? If the thing's taking mental neuron imaging things so it can reconstitute it somewhere else, just reconstitute anything over there. It's like a 3D printer. You don't need to send this atom over here to go over there. Just reconstitute the same pattern over there that you see here. Boom, I'm over there too. It doesn't really.
I thought we were doing that to save resources on this planet and get rid of the overpopulation. So if we send a bunch of people to the next planet.
Yeah, you're using up our air.
Yeah.
Yeah,
one of the reasons, because there's too many people, so we don't want to be cloning people and sending copies and keeping originals.
Well, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where they had the 3 ships from some distant star or something, and the first ship were all the brave people, and the second ship was something like all the geniuses, and then they threw all the accountants and really boring people on the third ship. And of course, the ship that made it to Earth was the third ship.
Yeah.
You know, Pamela mentioned, I mean, I'm thinking of movies, and actually it was Jeff Goldblum, I believe, was in a movie, Earth Girls Are Easy.
I don't remember that one.
I do vaguely.
Well, we're going to move on to, you got a hope there, Dale. We're going to move on to Europa. And the only reason we have hope on Europa because we don't know anything about it. The less you know about it, the less you can eliminate, right? And Europa's got that nice icy crust. Could be anything there, you know? Your submarine may be there. You know, the little ice, anything is possible, Dale. This is your hope. Europa.
That's why we should never look into it.
Yes.
You know, that's a good point.
Leave it a mystery. And let us speak of it as we often speak of Europe. You know, in Europe, all the mattresses are firmer and form-fitting. You know, in Europe, they got a healthcare system that solves all problems. You know, over in Europe, they make the food is so much better. We could just have all these sort of euphemisms about Europa that way. You know, life has got to be teeming. It's just too bad we can never go there. Yeah.
Yeah, science has a way of obliterating my sense of denial. This place I like to live. So you're right. Leave Europa alone. It didn't.
Mystery.
That was 2001. You remember 2001?
Yes.
The Earth Child created the 2 stars and said, "You can have these 2 stars, but you can't touch Europa."
Justin, you can go to Europe.
Where the mattresses are firmer.
Yeah.
I don't know about the mattresses, but if I lived in Switzerland full time, I would be fat because, yeah, it's pretty good eating there.
It's so interesting though because they're really not known for their cocoa farms.
I don't eat chocolate anyway.
Oh.
So, yeah.
You don't eat chocolate.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, only fair trade, and that usually tastes like crap. So I don't bother. But, yeah, because most of the cocoa in the world is farmed by child slaves. I'm not laughing at what I'm saying, I'm laughing at Justin.
Wow, you can't believe you're laughing at...
I'm laughing not at the child slave. Because I'm already laughing because we've had this conversation before, so... Do not laugh at child slaves. And so eating cocoa farmed by child slaves,
Yes,
I mean,
Chelsea, it's not funny. You're right. It is not funny.
I wouldn't want my daughter being put through that, so I'm not going to put someone else's child through that.
I didn't know chocolate was made by children.
Yes, pretty bad.
No,
Most
the
of it
chocolate isn't. A lot of the farming is.
Yeah.
A lot of the people who farm chocolate have never seen chocolate. They've never tasted chocolate. The fact that the Swiss are known for chocolate and yet there's no cocoa grown there is kind of one of those clear signs of a history of imperialism and that we associate chocolate with a country that doesn't grow cocoa.
And it's not fair trade because I asked.
So
it's like the British and tea.
Oh, I could not get a chai latte in the United Kingdom. They looked at me like I was crazy. There's no chai. It's horrible.
Well, we know what we need. We know what we need for Pamela if she goes on her space trip. You got to bring some chai. Now, I do have 4 paragraphs in Wikipedia talking about the possibility of life. All of them really sort of kind of maybe if we looked at this and if this happened over here, and so really it's just I'm gonna put that away. But I'm gonna keep your hope. You're gonna keep your hope alive because in there was nothing in there about what eliminating life from Europa because we don't have a clue about it. So you got hope, Dale.
This is my pledge, Dale. I will never bring an investigative story or a NASA story or a probe story to TWIS that has anything to do with Europa. We'll make this the Forbidden Planet. Europa, the Forbidden Planet, where no man may go, no matter how bold. Except for that one man who was too bold, Dale, who decided one day to board a spacecraft and head out on his own to search the undersea lands of Europa. This is the making of a new sci-fi thing. I think we got a show here.
Yeah, I'm going to fake my own moon landing, my Europa landing, and it's going to be more interesting, though, than the dusty surface of whatever.
Flying in his red and white Orca spacecraft submarine that he built himself.
With lots of duct tape.
Launched it from the top of a tower, they say.
The sperm whale Panspermia Express.
I'm going to move on. Going to have some more fun. And I'm going to ask the question: what is the probability? Now we've already saying there's may not be Earth-like life, period, anywhere. Now I'm going to start talking about intelligent, Earth-like sentient life, Earth-like intelligence, and what that possibility is. It's obviously lower than any kind of life. And I want to talk about, there's an article, nature.com, our friends at SETI, they're going to be looking, they're going to be looking through all these communications we're getting from aliens out in space, and they're going to find it. I know that because I saw the movie First Contact. In any event, let me read from this, nature.com, and you've got some very intelligent people: Stephen Hawking, Frank Drake, and a bunch of journalists. Royal Society at London last week, and astronomers announced a groundbreaking new project to search for intelligent extraterrestrial life called Breakthrough Listen. They're going to be using two of the world's largest telescopes, radio telescopes, one in Green Bank Telescope in West Virginia, and the Parkes Radio Telescope in Australia. And they've chosen to target the nearest million stars. Scientists have chosen to target the nearest million stars as well as the nearest million galaxies. They will also monitor the galactic plane for months at a time. This unprecedented effort, it's going to be a collaboration, UC Berkeley and the Breakthrough Prize Foundation. And there are going to be a bunch of international astronomers and data scientists, including Frank Drake. Now, here's what they say. The new program will be a factor of 100 times more powerful than any current or past SETI project. This is Geoff Marcy, leading member of the team. He goes on to say that the 1.0 gigahertz bandwidth used for this program will be like turning your radio in your car, but instead of collecting the music from just one station, we're going to collect it from 1.5 billion stations. Funding for the SETI projects has been a challenge since NASA pulled the plug. They've got this guy, what is his name? Yuri Milner. And Yuri Milner has come up with some money to fund this. Additional funding obviously will be necessary, and it's always going to, it's always going to be a question of funding.
Do they have Yuri's phone number in there? How does Yuri feel about islands?
I don't know. I'm gonna have to see if Yuri has a. You gotta have a Twitter account, right?
Yeah, let's get Yuri on. And by the way, I'm no longer in any way going to attempt to influence where we would put a science island. having the California fires, those giant fires you've all been hearing so much about, pretty much burned all of my favorite spots.
Well, you said it was warm.
Hey, I bet we can get it cheaper now than ever.
Yeah.
Hey,
Always.
started from
Cupboard's always
scratch.
half full.
Started from scratch.
So here's the thing with SETI. SETI,
I have all these
But
fireproof couches.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
Go ahead, Justin.
SETI is its own worst critic. SETI knows the problem of contacting intelligent life in space, more so better than anybody. The most depressing information I'd ever received on whether or not there's life, intelligent life in the universe, and whether or not we would contact it comes from SETI. They're basically like, look, there's this thing called distance. And in space, we measure things in light years. Sometimes it's hundreds of light years. Most often, it's thousands of light years. And most of our own galaxy is beyond the tens of thousands of light years from us, right? It's all really, 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 really far away. In fact, all the stars that we can even see in the night sky are pretty much a small portion of our own galaxy. And its distances are really, really far. So, yes, we've been putting out radio and radar signals for 40, 50, 60 years. So how many of the 76 trillion stars in the universe have we reached with this signal we've been constantly beaming out into space? Well, if it goes at a light year, as it does out there, we're talking about 50, 60, 70. You can even call it, if you wanted to, 100 light years from the first radio signals. That's not very far. That's maybe a few thousand stars, maybe.
There
It's
goes
not much.
Mr.
It's not a whole lot that's out there that could read our signal, that would be looking in our direction. So what we're really hoping to find is somebody else who's been emitting signals.
There goes Mr. Burst My Bubble again.
Right. And so what we're really looking for is somebody else who's sending signals. Now, if that's 1 million light years away, if it's 100,000 light years away, if it's 1 billion light years away, and we can pick up this signal, chances are the civilization that sent it is long since no longer in its civilized form, in its evolved state. It's perhaps not even there.
Okay, so you've given it the glass is half empty again, and I'm going to give our viewers a little bit of hope that there's another way that we're going to be able to communicate, and that's not based on radio frequency, light waves, or anything else. But what about quantum teleportation and communicating data bits through quantum spins, through remote places that are across the universe? How about that? When we're finally able to make that first machine, that will be the moment where we've entered the realm of quantum communication, and suddenly we're going to get signals from other parts of the universe because time and space will have no bearing.
I don't understand that, nor do I pretend to. But if I'm thinking about an entangled particle, I still feel like one of the entangled particles needs to get sent somewhere for it to be entangled to the particle that's local. And that still seems to require this speed of light as the maximum for it to travel that distance. Now, okay, if some sort of wormhole time-space bending defying technology comes about, then where do we humans go? Well, now we can traverse the galaxy with ease. We can zip from one planetoid to another in star system after star system, searching for some sort of valuable interaction with a life form out there, right? Or the tiny, spacey, bendy, wendy thing is at our disposal. Hey, why don't you and I go back in time here on this planet, make the right investments, take over the world, right? Like, like if you can do that, if time and space no longer matter, what are you most interested in manipulating? Research to go find another planet? Maybe you find a couple of those other planets. Maybe they're not very interesting. But what you are sort of still grounded in is interest in this planet, which is why my if you suspend all doubt and believe everybody's little gray aliens who are doing butt probes, right? If you suspend all doubt and believe that the anal probing little gray men are real, then that's what they are. They're future microbiologists going back in time to replenish the microflora of the future because we've all used too many antibiotics. I think that's the highest and best use you would see, is some sort of scientific endeavor into our past to discover who we modern humans are. We think ourselves as the modern humans, but we're talking about a vastly future modern human who comes up with this technology. And if they are so dedicated to research that they could have come up with that, they're probably also curious about other forms of scientific inquiry, and why not go back in time and monitor humanity? Fill in those gaps where we weren't sure what was going on during the 70s, or with Neanderthals, or with Australopithecus. Like, why would they bother with other planets at that point? There's plenty to learn here.
You know, kind of at this point, I'm getting kind of desperate. I think I'd just as soon, you know, jump on my spacecraft and land on the planet Australia and visit some of the foreigners there. You know, because this this is not it's not a fun conversation because we are so alone in our solar system, and this quantum business, yeah, not a lot of hope there. But I hope there's something in the future that science is going to show us that will have some sort of, like, do they really believe we're going to get any sort of communication through SETI? What's Yuri Molnar's real motive for spending all this money on SETI? It's got to be, is it a promotional gimmick, a really expensive...
Look, there's people who really like this question and are really interested in it. And you know, there's probably, if you believe that there's those hundreds of billions of Earth-like planets out there, I mean, that's the estimation. You don't have to believe it or not. But if you believe there's life on them, and you believe that the chances are an intelligent form of life exists on one of those planets out there, much more so than it exists on a Titan or a Mars, or whatever the other planet is who I've forgotten now, then this is where the wise dollars should be spent, right? Because maybe that other culture died 10,000 years ago or 1,000,000 years ago. But if they were putting out radio signals, we should be able to hear them. And if we have a sensitive enough listening device, we should be able to pick it up. It won't be a communication to us. They will never have seen our communication. They won't know we're out there. We might be getting their reruns of, you know, I Love Lucy, or whatever the equivalent is, right?
Oh, McHale's Navy. I like that one.
Okay, well, we got that McHale's Navy. Hopefully we don't get
Pamela has her intergalactic planetary communicating device on her head.
Hopefully we don't get their version of a Republican debate on a Fox News channel. Hopefully we don't get that signal first.
What the hell? I was watching TV and Trump is leading?
Well,
what are you guys thinking down there? What are you doing?
It's not what I'm doing. No, it's what they have. It's a long story, but it's basically what the propaganda machine on the right has trained a bunch of talking points and a bunch of beliefs into their constituency, and Trump just came in and took them quickly and as extremely as possible so that nobody else is allowed to even talk about them now. It's sort of what happened.
You know, Justin, you nailed it last week when I talked about transparency. All the other candidates, a bunch of politicians, blah, blah. Trump, he's transparent. He's saying exactly what that constituency want to hear.
Except on he's not what's the thing? He's not the religious right candidate.
That's true.
That's where they get him. That's where they get him. Is that in the past he said he could care less. Pro-choice, not pro-choice, whatever. But a lot of them are like, even if a woman is going to die because she's pregnant, we would not allow it to happen.
It doesn't matter, though, because he has this power. He's in the lead. So with the Republicans, he's going to go, he won't win, right? He doesn't win, but he has the power. He's going to say to whoever wins that, look at, either you're going to give me a whole bunch of bargaining power in the future, or I'm going to run as an independent. Right. And if I run as an independent, you guys are screwed. So he's got power right now, regardless of what happens.
Kind of, but here's what they're making it out to be. And this is the Republican debates are. This one was definitely a hit piece on Trump. They definitely the people asking the questions were going after him. They're trying desperately to undo their Trump problem, because Trump is not what they wanted at all. He came out and said all the right things to get this 25% of their constituents to follow. But they put on all the hard work. They put in all this hard work to create these talking points. And then he came in and took them over. And it's like, no, we have them trained to believe this, but we don't actually, no, it's not what we actually want to do once we're in office. So they want to get rid of him. And so what he was saying is they keep wanting him to promise that he wouldn't run as a third-party candidate. But what he has said, and it's very interesting if you listen to this, he said if when it comes time for the Republican National Committee to pick their candidate, and he's leading in their polls as the top pick on the Republican side, and they pick somebody else other than him to run, then he's going to leave that open as an option to run. Because what can happen is he can go through this whole process. He could win in Iowa, he could win here, he could win there, he could win all the primary races, and the Republican National Committee could pick somebody else to run for president. Because their primary isn't an actual election, right? So what he's left open is if he's the favored candidate that deep in, and the Republican Party goes with somebody else, he'll make that decision when it comes time. And so
are there still some states that have caucuses and not an actual primary? That used to be true. And what used to happen is the party favorite would get all the caucuses votes.
Yeah, that can happen. But even then, at the very end, they could just pick. I mean, that's what and I think that's what Trump has been saying when they keep trying to get him to promise that he would never, ever, ever, never, ever run as a third-party candidate. He's saying, well, look, if I'm ahead in the polls at the end of this thing, if I'm still the top candidate, I'm going to have that open if I don't go on to be the candidate, right? So that's what he's saying, which is interesting because he sort of already knows he's not a Republican picked candidate. They didn't want him running. They got really excited by all the buzz, and there he goes. He declared as a Republican. They let him do that. They didn't take it seriously. He took all the talking points away from him really early by going super extreme about everything. And now they're stuck with this lunatic billionaire and leading their polls, and they can't figure out how to get rid of him. They tried really hard tonight. The News, it was the greatest debate panel I've ever seen Fox News be able to put on, but a lot of it was designed to attack Trump.
Meanwhile, in Canada, we're having our federal election is underway, and nobody knows about it.
Oh yeah, no, I watched your debates. They were on C-SPAN, I believe.
Really?
Today. Yeah.
You know, the only debates...
Nobody was yelling, though, so I kind of tuned it out.
Have you ever seen the British Parliament? I like the British Parliament. They yell at each other, here, 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 and they're slamming. I mean, that's fun. That's entertainment.
Well, there was a little of that tonight with the Republicans. There was a couple of those. There were some disjointed moments when, what was it? I think it was Rand was yelling at Trump, but he had misheard Trump's answer to something. So that was a little off kilter. But then and then Rand again and Chris Christie went after each other. But what was sort of interesting was they were all trying to play almost the same character. It's like you called central casting and said, give me 10 white guys and make them all look kind of presidential. And make them all like stern presidential types, hawkish presidential types. And so then this is like this audition out of central casting where they've already pre-selected the guy that could look like that conservative president guy, and they're all out there trying to grimace each other and out-shout each other and out-testosterone each other and out-oversimplify the answer each other. It was high comedy. And some of them are really trying to play the same character. Some of them, it seems like if it's like you got the exact same card, like Cruz and Walker kind of look like they're both trying to be the exact same guy on stage. Same with Bush and Rubio. They're trying to be the same guy. Huckabee. Actually, the one who I actually liked one. There's actually one that, was it Kusich or who knows? He's the 10th one on. He's the one that barely made it into this debate.
Kucinich.
It's not Kucinich. It's not his name. God, what is his name? Is it Kucinich? No, it's not Kucinich. No.
I didn't see it yet. I want to watch. I'm hoping that it's on the web somewhere because I didn't get to watch the debate. So maybe C-SPAN has it or something.
But I tell you what, one great thing is the Kusic, whatever his name is. He was asked the gay question. Like, what do you think? What if one of your family members was gay? He's like, look, I went to a friend of mine's wedding. He's gay. This is like a dead issue. We shouldn't keep talking about this at this point. And the audience cheered. And I thought that to me was the highlight of the debate. When you've got the Republican debates going on and the audience cheering, that you let people be. You let people be there, and it really made it sound like, wow, the gay rights issue is dead.
Okay, progress. How many self-declared atheists were on stage?
0. Absolutely 0. Absolutely 0.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They got
even
the gay
yeah.
issue.
No, I know. The God issue's next. Well, it might be a little later than next.
Is Bernie Sanders an atheist or I don't know?
No, I don't think he is. But
then there are no candidates that are atheists.
No.
Okay, I'm gonna drag us back. One more interesting question, and maybe we've found the answer, which has to do with first contact. 2 possibilities. We go out into space, we come to that planet, and maybe it might be the women from Saturn. Hopefully, I don't know. But what is that first contact? Are they going to welcome us? Is it going to be hostile? Are they going to head for the hills? Have they heard about us? They say, okay, guys, we got to pass out the condoms because these guys will do it with anybody. What do you think that first contact is going to be like?
I dropped out for a moment, but I think the first contact. Have you watched the movie Mars Attacks?
Yes, I saw it.
I think it's going to be like that. I think we're going to be trying to greet them. I think there'll be insanity in the White House. You'll have the scientists saying that, no, they're peaceful. We have the universal translator. It's going to mess things up in a major way. It's going to be Mars Attacks, and I'm going to love it. I'm going to watch every moment and treasure it.
Wow. All right. My vision of first contact. 1.5 billion years into the future. Voyager. Boop, 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 boop. Zorga's version of their Voyager. They pass each other in open space. Half a billion miles apart from each other. Yeah.
Glass is half empty.
Well, space is just freaking big, man. There's no way around it. Space is really, really big, and time is really, really long. And not only timing how close something is, but then when it happened is also, that's a whole other problem. It's not just space is far away, but space is also old. And so, you know, maybe there was a flourishing civilization on a planet 5 billion years ago that sun has since burnt out. Like, maybe they didn't get off that planet. I mean, there's too many. Long-term, big picture, it don't look good. Life is hard to maintain, even on a Goldilocks planet like this.
So we need to spread like a virus.
We need to spread robots. We need to send artificial intelligent robots to go out there and take over other planets.
Any thoughts, Pamela? Okay.
First contact. Well, I think of first contact between people on this planet. What happens? One usually enslaves the other. Why would it be any different between us and alien life?
Hopefully we have evolved enough by then, but hopefully we evolved enough to. What is Dale putting on his little
Laura.
hat, his climbing hat?
Yeah.
I mean, just think, and this could be somewhat terrifying. I mean, they have this other alien life form. They have their SETI program, and they've been listening and watching to all our radio broadcasts through the years. They've been watching the Republican debate here. What do you think?
They're still looking for intelligent life.
That's what I said before. If they're more intelligent than us, then they're going to avoid us, because why, you know? And if they're less intelligent, well, do we want to meet them? I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm feeling a bit down about it all now too. It's not going to be like E.T. phone home or anything.
How do you think we would welcome them? If they landed on our planet, what kind of?
Well, that's what I'm saying. We'll probably enslave them, because that's what we've done to each other here.
I saw that. What was the movie where the big robot came down? The guy had the big robot, and we weren't treating him so good, so the robot, you know, started blasting away and killing everybody. I forget the name of the movie. I think we should check first to see if they've got any laser blasters on them before we start trying to enslave them.
Yeah, I don't think we should do that. I'm just thinking that's probably what will happen. We'll either enslave them or they'll enslave us, because that's sadly what we do. And then, you know, laws will have to, if they're about the same intelligence, I mean, laws will have to be written to accommodate that. I mean, dolphins are proven to be as intelligent, right? And they've only gotten some lawful recognition of that in a couple of places on the planet. Yeah, I think we're a long way away from being able to. I hope they don't come tomorrow, because we're not ready.
Oh, that I would agree with. But let's say we create our laws and we say species. Species doesn't say where it's from. Species could be from another planet. So if we create laws and we use the word species, then it's got to apply to everything, right?
Then you'll stop eating your bacon, because pigs are very intelligent.
Okay. One of the things I was going to talk about, get an interesting discussion perhaps, is Pamela. Of course, we have our lion hunter guy, the trophy hunter, who killed the lion, the beloved lion in Africa. Okay. My question is, you have two kinds of hunters, right? You have the hunters for food and clothing, and then you have the trophy hunters. Is there really any ethical, moral difference between them? Because the animal's dead. Don't make a bit of difference to the animal. It is dead. Now, if you're morally opposed to killing animals, you're a vegan or whatever, that's one thing. But we're not. We're carnivores, and most people eat meat. You kill chickens in a farm. Trophy hunters, what's the difference? I mean, they provide money for the local economy.
No, the difference is one. Now, I don't see eating as a necessity, so I would say no, it's all the same. However, if you do see eating meat as a necessity, then one's a necessity and one is for recreation. And isn't that the difference between killing in self-defense and murdering someone?
Killing in self-defense, murdering. Does that apply to an animal? We're getting back to the question of the species business.
Well, it should.
I don't know. Good question. Dale, any thoughts?
Sorry, it just, my connection keeps going up and down, so I missed the last portion of that.
Okay, we're talking about, is there an ethical and moral difference between why you kill an animal? You do it for food or clothing, or you do it for sports hunting? And we're talking about the lion that got killed by the trophy hunting.
Well, I think with the killing of animals, my feeling, I don't like it, but we did it as a survival thing for most of our existence, and now it's beyond that. It's beyond survival, and sometimes it's just we don't need to do it, and we do it anyways.
But that's what I was saying. I missed it. I compared it to killing in self-defense or going out and murdering someone.
So you're saying, is it like murder when you kill an animal? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think it is anytime. However, if you think that you need to eat meat, then and you're talking about survival compared to just wanting to kill something and have your photo taken with it as a trophy. So that's going out and murdering for fun, or there's not that it's self-defense, but if you're killing to eat it, then that's a survival issue. If someone's breaking into my house and I think they're going to harm Chelsea and I, and I start defending us and accidentally kill them in the process, that's self-defense. I haven't intentionally gone out to murder someone for fun. However, if they've come into our house to kill us, then they're murderers.
So what level of intelligence does it become not acceptable that we can simply dispense with something?
Well, some people would say that I murder plants.
Yeah, it does get to that, right?
Yeah. I think that's
tough.
Okay, so with a plant, when you cut it back, it grows better, right? When you cut a lion's head off, it doesn't grow better.
We kill plants that don't grow back.
Yeah.
Did you guys see the post on how plants suffer, and they were looking at the same sort of responses it has, like human beings? Did you guys see that?
I didn't read it. I saw the headline, though.
Yeah.
I've read articles similar to that, research similar to that.
Yeah, and again, I think it's kind of a weak argument, but I don't think you can compare a plant to a human being. But I think the way I see the world is it's a really tough place, and humans have been very, very successful, and I will always side with the humans. I hope at some point that we can be more generous with our resources. I hope that we can share more, and that will only happen through abundance. Things have to become more abundant, and that will only happen through science and technology. And then I hope at that point that it can be a more peaceful place for any being, right? That it just becomes irrelevant. You don't have to kill anything, because there will be other methods of doing all that.
I can see your sympathies. I can understand that. But for instance, if you had a farm, okay, you raise animals for the farm, okay, fine. You raise a lion, tiger, some big game animal. And there are farms, I know in the United States, where people will go to shoot birds. I presume they eat them. I don't know if they eat them. But if you created a business, a nature preserve, and you've got lions, tigers, bears in there, and you allow people to go in and hunt them. You could have the dead animal and then give it away to charity. But what they want is the trophy. The guy doing the killing wants the trophy. I don't really have a problem with that. If you're in the wild, I mean, I have hunted. The only thing I killed was a tree, and I don't. Well, actually, I wounded a tree. So I don't know.
Just has everyone here seen Dexter?
Yes.
Okay. So you know how he kept trophies of all of his kills? He had a blood slide.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's all right for him to do that?
Sure.
Oh. All right.
The killing part, killing another human, that's the hard part. Once he's done that, I don't care about the trophy part. In fact, I want him to walk down the street and say, "Hey, man, look at this hand I just chopped off a guy," and then watch the SWAT team come and blow away.
Okay. Well, I don't want to live next door to you on science.
I mean, the animal's dead. You already killed it. Now, if you look at it from a psychological standpoint and say this is a person who's torturing animals, they could be a psychopath, they might kill people, okay, that's valid, looking at that behavior. But basically, you killed it. The animal is dead. Whether it's, I just don't see that. I understand the difference, but I think basically, I don't think there is that much of a difference. What do you think, Justin?
I have no idea what we're talking about.
Okay.
Something about roadkill?
We're talking about Cecil, the poor lion who was killed by the trophy hunter. Trophy hunting. What is there a moral, ethical difference between trophy hunting and hunting for food and sustenance?
Okay. So here's how I would describe it. Here's how you have to picture it. A wealthy billionaire Chinese businessman flies out to your local zoo and pays somebody to fly a helicopter over the zoo so that he can shoot one of your zoo's giraffes. You okay with that?
Oh no, because the zoo, that's a zoo animal.
It's absolutely insanely ridiculous. So here's this guy who's like, in comparison, a billionaire to the population he's visiting. Travels to another country, shoots one of the animals from one of their parks. I don't see what the difference is.
The difference is with the zoo animals. You have to get a license for hunting, right? If you get a license, for hunting,
hey, where's Blair?
Never heard of any
Blair,
zoo.
Can you get a zoo hunting license? Where's Blair?
I think that's
you
awesome.
Get a zoo hunting license. No, there's no such thing as a zoo hunting license.
Not in this universe, but in other parallel universes.
Well, what I'm saying is, we look at it from the perspective is like, the man went into the wild, armed with nothing but his trusty bow, and the lion came upon him, and he fired, and as a victim. No, that's not what happened.
There was no hunting at all. They put out a lump of meat, and the poor lion came over expecting, and then they blew him away. There was no hunting at all.
Right. So if this, in my scenario, the wealthy Chinese businessman came over and hunted an animal in an American zoo, yeah, we would want him to see some justice, right? We would want him.
Only if he doesn't have. Again, I got to get back to the license business. Does
There's
he have
no
a
such
license
thing
to
as a
hunt?
license to hunt.
And he
zoo
can't do it.
Yeah.
I'm
And
an
there's no
auditor.
such
I'm a
thing.
bureaucrat. Gotta have a license.
Right, and there's no such thing as a license to hunt a lion in a protected park.
Yes, there is.
There isn't. Well,
There's a
not at that
protocol you
part.
have to go through. There's a protocol you have to go through. Now, if you're talking about a nature preserve,
Talking about
doesn't
Cecil.
allow hunting
You're
animals.
talking about Cecil, right? Cecil's a
Yes.
protected animal on protected park.
Was he?
Yes. And,
Okay,
and in
that part
fact,
I don't know.
in fact, part of the whole
I thought
scenario,
he paid a license and he had a local guide and he hired a guide. So the guide took him into this place where there's not supposed to be any hunting?
No. Well, yeah, and what they did is they dropped a trail of meat in front of this lion until it wandered outside of that border, and then they shot it.
Okay, now I got you.
So yeah, so in the Chinese businessman scenario, he didn't shoot the giraffe while it was in the zoo. He opened up the giraffe cage, and the giraffe went out on 3rd Street, and then he shot it. Because it's okay to shoot giraffes on 3rd Street, apparently. At least there's no law against it specifically written.
Okay, so you're saying that's legal then, right? So you're sticking up for the Chinese businessmen.
Well, what I'm sticking up for is just because it wasn't in the zoo, and maybe there isn't a law against shooting a giraffe on 3rd Street. Yeah, it's criminal behavior, and it's absolutely unnecessary. And this retarded dentist doesn't need to be shooting lions in Africa. He needs to be going to dental school again or whatever and refining his craft. The idea that we've got these beautiful animals in preserves and we're still out there like bow hunting them and mounting them and making tiger rugs. I mean, this is why there's no rhinos. This is why we can't. This is why there's no mastodons even. This is why we can't have nice animals on this planet. It's because there's too many of us to allow anybody with a rifle or a bow or whatever to go out and kill whatever the hell they want. There's not enough animals left. We have dominated the landscape to the point where if you gave everybody the right to go out and kill anything they wanted, there wouldn't be anything there to kill anymore.
See, yeah, but you're talking about a protected species. I'm making distinctions. There's protected species, and you want to have a protected species to preserve the biodiversity. That would be my opinion. The only reason for not allowing people to kill the rhino and take the horn is biodiversity and economic reasons. Right. Okay, so let's say I build my little park. Even if it's a dino park, I'm going to let people hunt dinos. I build my little park, I get my animals, I farm my animals there, and then I'm going to give people a license. Here you go. $200 to go into that park, and you go into the park and you can kill yourself a giraffe or something. Not a protected species. That's illegal. But an animal I have raised myself.
Look, here's the thing, and it may be from my Native American roots. They're probably not. But I think people who hunt who absolutely don't need to, not that you absolutely would have to. Look, there's a reason to go and hunt deer in the Northeast. There's a point where there's just too damn many of them, right? And you're doing a little bit of population control. And if you're eating deer meat and doing all that, then yeah, more power to you. There's hunters, certainly a good number of them in Canada, who live off of hunting. This is where they get their food. This is their livelihood. And yeah, I have nothing against that. I'm not against killing an animal to eat it. It's the trophy hunting where you're going to go find this big, beautiful animal somewhere in the world and kill it just so that you can say you shot it. It's stupid. This says nothing about your manhood. This says nothing about. I mean, I get like some people have a bucket list. But if your bucket list is to go out and find strange exotic creatures in foreign places and kill them, yeah, we could do without that. We need less.
You're ignoring the psychosis behind this. The real story here is these people want to shoot an endangered species and they're deriving pleasure from it. And there isn't just a few of these people. It's a human thing. It's statistically built into us. And there's a statistical portion of the planet that derive pleasure from killing a rare species. I wonder, where does that come from? Like, what people get pleasure, the rarer the better. It's built in some of us, and that's the real story here. Why is that?
I disagree. Okay, I disagree. I don't
Why
think
is
it's
it?
the rareness. I don't think it's the rareness. I don't think there's a lot of people who right now today in the United States would be like, don't tell anybody this, but I just bagged a bald eagle. Right? Like, I don't feel like it comes down to the rareness of the animal, but the idea of like, yeah, I faced down a lion, I bagged a lion, or killed an elephant, used an elephant gun. Yes, I did. Like,
Okay,
and
but
then they've got like an elephant foot wastebasket, or they've got the bear that was like leaning over and sipping water out of a still pond on a cool morning, has now been stuffed and taxidermied, so it's like like swiping and growling. It's just.
But what do we got that's plentiful? What do we got that's plentiful? We got like cows. How are you gonna brag to your brethren about? Yeah, I went out and that cow really came after me and I took him down.
Well, there's this guy who went. I know who went elk hunting, and I think he went to Montana to do the elk hunt. And they went out on horseback. It's all very, cowboy up, right? And he paid like thousands of dollars, like $3,000 for this trip, or $4,000 or something. And they get up on this ridge and they see the elk like 1,000 yards away. And he's got the high power rifle with the little helpy electronic sight. And from 1,000 yards away, he takes this shot that fells the elk. What was the point? It was like almost a video game at that point.
It's a challenge. It's a challenge. Hunting is a challenge.
I've got the answer. These macho people that want to do this and the hunt, if you want lots of pride, then let's make it even more fair. So on these animals, we're going to mount like a pan-tilt zoom camera, but with a high-powered rifle on the animal. We'll hire green berets that can return fire. So these elk. No,
not green berets. 15-year-old PETA chicks.
Okay,
Anti-society.
You've done it again. I've completely fallen off the rails, and I have no idea what we're talking about.
Okay, so it's the animals arms race now, right? Because we got
ALF, Animal Liberation Front, gets to man these remote guns. I'm starting to get this. I'm starting to like this.
Yeah. So now we're going to create balance. It's like the nuclear balance, right? The Cold War. We're going to balance this out, because when you balance it out with the arm, and you know what? It's a whole new category. The military-industrial complex, they're not selling as much there anymore. So this will be the next sort of panacea for the arms race. So.
Okay, so what you do is you get a Russian black bear versus an American grizzly. So we don't have to go to war with Russia?
No, it's the humans against the animals.
Oh.
See, these guys are going out with their rifles shooting unarmed animals. I'm saying arm them, but with human intelligence that can fire back.
I kind of like your idea, Ed, although I think that puts Greenland at the top global superpower, because I think the polar bear is the true apex predator out there. I think the polar bear takes out the rest of them.
Okay. Had a lot of fun with. I'm going to switch over our friend Pamela, who is now thoroughly enthralled with this discussion, and I'm going to talk about one of her heroes, a true hero for Science Island. And let's see if his name is Leonard Casley, and he is the Prince of the Principality of Hutt River. And my hero, he took on the Australian government, and he sort of kind of won. Sort of. Well, the thing is, it started out. I don't remember how many years ago. Maybe 20 years ago, 15 years ago. First thing that happened was they changed. He's a farmer. They changed the way they calculated his allotment, and as a result of that, he was going to lose $52 million. Got a little upset with that. Okay. I think he sued the Australian government. Didn't work. Nothing happened. So then he said, okay, I'm going to create my own municipality. He investigated, knew the guy's a really smart guy, really sharp guy. And so using the law, he has created this micronation. It's the oldest micronation, either in Australia, perhaps one of the oldest in the world. And what I can show you, I haven't tried the screen share yet. Let's do the old screen share adventure. And you can actually see the guy. Now we can't hear him. Well, we can hear him, but we're going to need Pamela to interpret for us because the guy speaks Australian. Now, and I will stop. I will freeze it at some point so we can talk about it. But let's do the screen share. Okay. There we go. The Prince of the Outback. Can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
We can hear you, but we can't hear the piece that's playing. So you'd have to describe what they're saying.
Okay. That's okay. He's speaking Australian. I can't understand them anyway. I'm going to get a link. Okay, you can't hear it? You guys can't hear it? Okay.
No.
I will stop there. End the screen share. You kind of get the idea. Let me read from the Wikipedia. Wikipedia about the Principality of Hutt River. It's the oldest micronation in Australia. The Principality claims to be an independent sovereign state, to have achieved legal status in April 1970, although it's unrecognized by Australia and other nations. And it was formed by this guy, Leonard George Castley, who calls himself Prince Leonard. Let's see. He lodged a claim under the law of tort for $52 million in the belief the claim would force revision of the quota. He also resorted to the law of unjust enrichment and successfully seized government land surrounding his farm, which he hoped would increase the quota. 2 weeks later, the government introduced a bill to resume their lands under compulsory acquisition. After approaches to the government to reconsider the land acquisition bid failed, him and his association, they went to associates. They resorted to international law, and they feel that allowed them to secede and declared their independence from the Commonwealth of Australia. The government of Western Australia determined it could do nothing without the intervention of the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth governor said it was unconstitutional for the Commonwealth to intervene in the secession. In the correspondence with the Governor General's office, Castley was inadvertently addressed as the administrator of the Hutt River province. After the Prime Minister threatened him with prosecution for infringement of territory, Casey styled himself the Prince Majesty Leonard of Hutt. Excuse me. His Majesty Prince Leonard I of Hutt, to take advantage of the British Treason Act of 1495, in which a self-proclaimed monarch could not be guilty of any offense against the rightful owner, and that anyone who interfered with the monarch's duties could be charged with treason. The government's recognition of him as the administrator of Hutt River had inadvertently made the Treason Act applicable, and Casey continued to sell his wheat in open defiance of the quota. The law in this matter has been changed. However, they've not taken any action against Hutt River since its declaration. Let's see. The law said that the government had 2 years to respond to Chrisley's declaration. He says that failure to respond gave the province de facto autonomy. That's under dispute. What you can see is it's going back and forth. So what you can see is that this guy knows the law, and he's been able to use the law to assert a fairly high degree of independence from the government. Now, he does pay taxes. They present him with a tax bill. Now, he says he's giving them a gift. He says he's not paying them a tax. He says he's giving them a gift. And now the government pretty much leaves him alone. They pretty much treat him as a corporation. That's kind of their outlook on him. So as long as he pays what they say are taxes, they don't care. They let the guy sell his wheat and everything else. And he's got what do they call it? He's got visas. And some countries have actually recognized that visa when it was presented by someone traveling. So he's my hero. He's my new hero for the day. Is he a hero, Justin?
He's working under some law of monarchy, inherited to the ugly stepchild of the United Kingdom based on the principles of Henry VIII. So I don't know if he's making a mockery of the system or just being clever, but it seems like a little combination of both.
Any thoughts, Pamela? Well, you're nice and comfy. I don't want to disturb you. You can't. Okay. Dale.
What
do you think?
I don't know. Anything I think tonight just goes south on me, and I'm losing arguments left and right. And
you're not losing arguments. I know. I understand though if you don't want to get into the fray. Being the second cousin of the Australia. I mean, I don't understand countries that have monarchies or that still subscribe to monarchistic ideas. But he's pulling out some sort of monarchy. Don't mess with the Baron. Land law that apparently trumps normal law for citizen type people. Great, make a mockery of it, exploit it. It's a legal loophole. You
think this is any kind of model for Science Island? You think maybe we go off and kind of claim a part of maybe California? I mean, the part of California has been burned. Nobody wants it anyway. So we go in there and we claim it. Now we got to get the government to come after us.
So we already
we can commit an act of treason.
California has its own secessionist movement. We have Jefferson County, which is at the very northern part of the state, and this is this Jefferson County wants to have its own currency, doesn't want to pay taxes to the state of California, wants itself to be declared its own nation. And if you go up there and you talk to the people, that you know, maybe they'll express it in way of trade and barter instead of using greenbacks, but that's about as far I think as it progresses. Actually, maybe people do a little bit more building up there without a building permit than they do elsewhere in the state. But you know what's so this guy he gets to do his wheat farming, and then you know I think Australia's attitude might be like, well, he's just farming, whatever. Let him do that until he dies, and then we'll be done with this nonsense. You know, he's still paying his taxes. I guess we'll just leave it there.
A monarchy on Science Island is viable as long as I am king.
Dictatorship would be a pretty good idea. As long as the dictator.
Royalty is ridiculous.
I think royalty is not a bad idea, actually. I think Dale has a point.
Depends who's in control, right?
You know,
Brother.
I think there would be a royal line. Well, but it depends too. What was it? It's not Charlemagne. Who was the head of Charlemagne? Was it Charlemagne? One of them, anyway. One of the early kings of Europe.
Charlemagne's great-grandfather, I think.
Yeah, that's
the one who was the king of the Franks.
Yeah, that's the one.
He was the guy who came in and said that to gain control, if you want to be a citizen, you want to live here in our territory, you have to be baptized. Kind of was a problem for all the, not the barbarians, I forget what they had a name, pagans. And he actually burned pagans at the stake because they refused to be baptized. That's how he gained control.
Yeah, but also they were doing like, you know, a chicken in every pot sort of a scenario too. Like it really did unify Europe at the same time. And this you have to understand is at the end of the Dark Ages, which those who there's this big movement to get the Dark Ages called the Middle Ages, because Christians are like, but that's when the rise of Christianity happened, so how could it be the Dark Ages? Because that's the age of enlightenment. No, it's the age of poverty and disease, where they were dismantling the aqueducts because they didn't understand what they were built for, and so made their mud huts with them. But anyway, yeah. Aside from murdering, I forgot what I was even going to say. Oh, no, he killed all of his family members because, or even like distant relatives. He had them all killed because there was this thing where if the king would die, other people of the noble blood would fight over who got to claim the throne. So he decided, outside of his own children, he would kill anybody else who was related to him or have anybody else who was related to him put to death so there wouldn't be a fight over who got to be king.
Violence prevention through violence.
Through killing off your own bloodline. I mean,
the first first Muslim caliphs did that exact same thing. When the caliph had all it, when he died, the favorite son got to be caliph, and all the others were killed.
Oh yeah, yeah, so that they wouldn't rise against him. Yeah.
So I was just listening to all of that, but while I was listening to that, I just had a quick look at my news feed, and I didn't realize, because I haven't looked at it until now, but is today the 70th anniversary of Hiroshima?
Oh, I had no idea. But I wouldn't know that. My Yahoo won't tell me that till tomorrow.
Oh, right. Sorry.
I'm still in yesterday. Only for a few more minutes, but...
It's in my... And Dale, you're in both in Friday now, aren't you?
Yep.
Yeah. So...
actually, aren't you Justin approaching? I got 2:55. You're 3 hours behind me. Aren't you 5 minutes before
Yeah,
midnight?
I've only got 5 minutes left in today.
Yeah, it is today, 70 years. So that was a fairly a significant scientific day. Oh, what?
Boy, you really picked us up on that one, Pamela. Let's talk
What?
about killing people with the atomic bomb.
No,
Yeah.
but the atomic bomb, well, it was. It's a scientific achievement. What we do with it is disgusting
That's true.
and
You're right.
and a reflection of humanity. But the atomic bomb itself is a scientific achievement.
Oh, it's a scientific achievement, and I think it has created peace in the world to a great degree.
Mm.
I mean, as much as the anniversaries of horrific events, look at the World Wars since. I mean, we haven't had the trench warfare. We haven't had the World War III of tanks and soldiers and the superpowers, those who were mobilized to continue fighting in World War III beyond it, or World War II beyond World War II. The Russians had a plan to invade the United States. The Russians weren't going to stop. Once they got mobilized, they were going to keep the machinery going. The United States really would have had to continue fighting an island by island battle against the Japanese. That war would have killed a lot more people. World War II would have been even bloodier if the bomb hadn't brought it to a pretty quick halt.
What are you talking?
That is exactly. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dale.
The Russians had a plan to invade the United States. Are you talking like Red Dawn?
No, not Red Dawn. I mean, nearing the end of World War II, as Germany was collapsing, and so they weren't done. They were going to say, like, hey, as long as we're completely mobilized now, we've got ourselves on this military footing. We've been building tanks and planes. We've got soldiers. Now we have bullets too, which is awesome because they didn't have bullets for most of the war. They had the guns, but you had to. You only got like 3 bullets per soldier if you were a Russian. It was really tough. Now they had ammunition and everything. Everybody's kind of weakened. They wanted to keep moving.
They didn't. How do you know that, though? Is there something historical that... Is there some historical facts there?
Yeah, I'm not just... I don't know what Ted Turner Network show it was at the end of but yeah, it wasn't. Stalin was going to keep going. The plan was. The United States was the next big target. UK was decimated. I mean, what other countries would stand between a Russian superpower and world domination at that point?
Don't diss England.
England was
the Germans. They
there was
stopped
no
the Germans.
England.
They were practically bombed out of existence, and yet the Germans did not invade because they knew they couldn't. I mean, they wouldn't win.
Wait, what?
The Germans attacked England, and obviously the intent was to, at some point, invade England. Okay. Their strategy: first, they launched the airstrikes. The Battle of Britain. The Britons had that nasty thing called radar, gave them an advantage. They defeated the German Air Force, which was unstoppable to that point, and the RAF defeated the German Air Force. So next thing was Hitler said, "Okay, we'll just bomb them out of existence." And you had not the Blitzkrieg. I forget what it was called, but they just dropped bombs to kill civilians, and it did not defeat the English. So Germany didn't invade. And I think number one, the Russians would have had a problem trying to get through Europe. We kind of stopped them anyway. What was it at Berlin? The Berlin Wall? Our troops sort of, we wouldn't let them take over the complete city of Berlin. We maintained Berlin as an open city. So I agree with you. They might have had plans. I know that we had the cable. We hooked into their cable so we could read all of their plans and things. And we had the code breakers who figured out. So you could be right that there were some plans by some Russians. I can't believe it was any way realistic. We come up with plans right now that, you know, what if we have to invade, you know, the Middle East for oil or something. But they're not really realistic. All right. 3 o'clock. You want to go through one more story, or are you guys ready to call it quits? I think Dale looks pretty much. Go ahead, Pamela.
I was going to say I only just got my baby up to sleep, so but that's all right.
I can go through one more story if you want.
Yeah, I don't mind either way.
Okay. And Dale, if you decide to leave us at some point, if you fall asleep, if your head hits the computer, we'll understand. And I just want to go over to this one last story because it's something that Blair Bazderich posted on Facebook, and it's kind of interesting. And it's talking about the problem with treating ships' ballast water. And the problem is you have, in this ballast water, you have organisms that are being shipped, in effect. They're in the ballast water from a ship moving across the ocean from one place to another. So they get rid of their ballast, and then you have these organisms from one part of the world getting loose into another part of the world and possibly becoming an invasive species. So what they do is they disinfect the ballast water. And the question here is, that disinfectant, is that creating a problem? This is a team of people at the Analytical Biogeochemistry at the Hulsenholz Zentrum München. And they're saying our analysis show that electrochemical disinfection causes numerous so-called disinfection byproducts. Using the toxicological features of these compounds are fully clarified, we recommend until that happens, we recommend a cautious approach to disinfecting ballast water. And that's really the issue. So I had two questions. One, obviously, we may be creating a greater problem than we have by allowing these possible invasive species to be released into another environment. That's number one. My bigger question is, isn't this just natural? Nature, and this is just another mechanism? I mean, every invasive species was at one time native to another environment. Somehow it made it to this other place, and it became the dominant species. That's nature. So I would say, one, don't disinfect the ballast water. First, you got to analyze it. If there's something really, really nasty that's going to kill people, you go ahead and you do the disinfectant. But if you're talking about just the possible spread of an invasive organism, I don't know. I think that maybe just part of the natural process.
Yeah, I mean that's something I say. You know, about people talk about weeds. Well, a weed is just a plant that we deem a pest, but it's evolutionarily stronger than the plants around it because it takes over. What's the difference between a weed and a plant? That's just how we define it. So yeah, that's true.
I think we're thinking way too much into the whole thing. I like ballast water. I kiss my girlfriend and bacteria spread and that changes her diversity. Where does this stop?
Well, also, it also seems like the solution with the disinfectant may be to kill anything that's coming in contact with that wasn't in the ballast water. So then you got it's like, so that an invasive species can't take root here, we're going to kill off everything that was here. That, I don't know. That doesn't seem like a good choice. It seems like they either need a better solution or, yeah, just let the invasive species at ports are going to happen by accident eventually anyway. So, yeah, just let it roll. I got to go, though. It's beyond the witching hour. My internet is turning back into a pumpkin, and there's mice now in my house for some reason.
Yuck.
It's a Cinderella reference, I think. Isn't it Cinderella with the mice and the pumpkin? Okay.
Yeah,
Good night, everybody.
Okay. I'll end the broadcast right now. Another great discussion. Try to think of something equally interesting next week. See all you guys next week.